Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord, please lead us from unreality to the reality, from ignorance to the knowledge, and from mortality to the immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Dear devotees, previous week we had a holiday. I had been to Letterkenny and we couldn't have the talk on Drishya Viveka. And today we are having the fourth class on Drishya Viveka, an inquiry into the seer and the seen. So a question may come in most of our mind. By doing this self-inquiry, by doing this discrimination between the seer and the seen, what happens? What am I going to get? What I am going to achieve? This question may come or it should come in our minds. The answer is the ignorance will be removed. The ignorance will be banished. The ignorance is destroyed. Then what stands? The knowledge, the bare awareness, the bare consciousness, the self, and the real I. I am that always, I am that already. But just like a cloud is covering the sun and we are not getting complete sunlight, when the cloud is removed, then we are able to get the good sunlight and we are able to see the sun. Similarly, when this ignorance is destroyed or removed, then I'll be able to experience who am I in reality, the real I. Then the world may not change. The people and the situations in and around me may not change, but I will be the happiest person. I will be in the eternal bliss. I will be experiencing the eternal bliss. So, by studying Vedanta, by attending to my Drishya Viveka class, what happens? We can try to be always blissful. That's all we want. Money, name, fame, power, position, all these things for what? We feel that there is a happy. So the highest happiness is there by studying Vedanta or by putting the truths into practice and by experiencing the real I. Now, in the first 5-6 slokas, the author tried to explain three different types of seers. Seer 1, sense organs. Seer 2, mind. Seer 3, that is self or Sakshi Chaitanya. Now, after explaining these things, how the formation of these seers and how the work happens of these three seers, we started discussing from the verse 6. Now we are trying to discuss in the verse 7 as a continuation of that subject. What is the connection between the mind and the reflected consciousness? And how they are strong and close each other is being explained in this verse number 7. Before getting into sloka, probably I will explain this. What is mind and the reflected consciousness? Then you'll be able to understand. Now, for an example, there's a beautiful mirror in front of me. I am standing in front of mirror. I look myself, whether I look beautiful, whether I look ugly, or whether I look okay, or should I touch up anything with my body. My hair craft, of course, I don't have hair, but otherwise, if is there, whether my hair craft is right, whether I have to adjust anything, or my clothes I have to adjust. Myself, I see. That is a day-to-day experience of all of us, all of us. Now, the mirror is nothing but the mind here, the reflecting medium. The reflecting medium, which is mirror externally, with respect to ourselves, here, the reflecting medium mirror is what? Mind. Now, when I'm looking into the mirror, There is a reflection of my image. Whatever you keep in front of the mirror, there's a reflected image, reflection of the image. So, similarly, if I am standing, if this physical body is standing in front of the mirror, there is a reflected image, a reflection of this body. That is what reflection of the image, or reflected image, we say. So, similarly, mirror, a person is standing can be compared to a sakshi or chaitanya or consciousness. The mirror can be compared to the mind, reflecting medium, and a person's reflection, reflected image of a person is nothing but the reflected consciousness, reflection of consciousness or reflected consciousness. Is it too tiring? Is it too head boggling? Is it too confusing? Person standing in front of the mirror, there is a mirror and there is my reflected image or my image. Similarly, Sakshi, the pure awareness, consciousness, seer number 3, then the mind called reflecting medium, and the Sakshi's reflection, the Sakshi's reflected image is called reflection of consciousness or reflected consciousness, RC. Now, the connection between the mirror and the reflected image, or the connection between the mind and the reflection of consciousness, a reflected consciousness, what it is we are trying to understand in the verse number 7. Now, why should I understand? What is the beauty of it will be explained in detail in the verse number 8. So, giving this introduction, let me go into the verse 7. So, you should not forget mind, which is a reflecting medium. Consciousness is original consciousness. The reflected consciousness is the image of the reflection of the consciousness. With respect to person, mirror, and the reflection. That if you keep in mind this original consciousness and reflection of consciousness or reflected consciousness, you'll be able to understand. Chaya ahankara yoikyam taptayah pindavanmatam tadahankara tadatmyat dehschetan tamagat. Means, in the opinion of the wise people, the realized people, the identity of the reflection of consciousness, RC, and the ego or the mind is like the identity between the fire and the heated iron ball. The body, having been identified with the ego or the mind, passes for a conscious entity. Now I am experiencing happiness, I am experiencing unhappiness. Who is experiencing happiness or unhappiness? If you ask this question for a common person, he says, I am experiencing happiness. That's why I say I am happy. And also, if I am unhappy, I am experiencing the unhappiness. That's why I am unhappy. This is the normal answer a common person gives. But the person who has studied Vedanta, if you ask who is happy or who is unhappy, then a student of the Vedanta says, my mind is unhappy or my mind is happy. My mind is happy or my mind is sorrowful. My mind is stressed and my mind is distressed. I am not stressed or distressed. My mind is stressed or distressed. Isn't it? What an important thing. Something happens to the body, I feel immediately react. Why? Because there's so much attachment to the body. Otherwise, what happens? Okay, something has happened to the body. Let me correct. Like from 4 or 5 days, I've got a muscle cramp in the lower back, and there's a lot of ache. But I never cried or whatever. Just there is there, and whatever is required, probably a balm has been applied, and I'm trying to do my work. I was not morose. I was not lamenting or commenting or crying or whatnot. Even 3 days before, I was unable to walk even. So this type of experience is there for everyone. But how we respond, how we react is very important. Okay, my body has got some problem. Let me try to handle it. That's fine. And I should take care of it as much as possible. That's it. If you separate yourself from your body, this type of understanding, at least for limited time, you can have it. At least if you have got intellectual understanding. Otherwise, oh, I am not well, my body, I am not well, I am not well. And we keep on lamenting, we keep on commenting, we are annoyed, and we are really stressed, and we feel something has happened to me itself. What not? Everything happens. So, if something is happening, all the dualities, whatever we experience in the world, that all belongs to the world or to my mind, not to me. The moment when you understand this clarity of thought, when you get, you will be able to face all these dualities with so beautifully. You will not be perturbed. You will not be stressed. You will not have a lack of sleep. You will not have any other problem. So, in the first sloka, the sense organs and the mind are the seers, we know. Seer number one is sense organs, seer number two is mind, seer number three is sakshi. We know that. Now, sense organs and mind, if you see, they're insentient. The conscious is eternally sentient, no doubt, eternally conscious, but mind and the senses are not sentient always. They are insentient rather. If so, then the question comes to a person, it should come to a person that then how do we get recognition? How the cognition happens? How the experience of joy and sorrow, experience of heat and cold, how it happens? This question comes. So, this question or this doubt is solved in the verse 7. Now, if the body and mind are insentient, how we are able to experience all these things? Since we are experiencing heat and cold, happiness and sorrow, good and bad, darkness and light, ignorance and knowledge, that means body and mind should be also sentient. Body and mind should be luminous. Body and mind should also have life. This is our general drawn conclusion, which one can hold. But the answer is different. When you study Vedanta in deep, in reality, it will understand. And the example is given is like iron ball. Iron ball is heated for a good amount of temperature. Then slowly, what happens? Though the iron black, generally it will be black in color. Because of heat, continuous heat, it becomes red hot. And the iron ball was kept in the fire and it was kept on heating. At some point of time, the whole iron ball turns into red, and the fire and the iron ball looks inseparable. The hot iron ball which has turned into red and the fire both looks like, appears like they are inseparable. Now the redness of the iron ball, whether it belongs to iron ball or whether it belongs to fire, if you ask, generally we all know that the redness belongs to fire, not belongs to the iron ball. Then how the iron ball became red? Or because it came into contact with the fire, that's why. So similarly, when the body and mind came into contact with the consciousness, they appear as a sentient, but otherwise it is not. Just like the iron ball came into contact with the fire and it became red hot iron ball, and it looks like red hot iron ball and the fire are inseparable. So similarly, when the body and the mind is coming to contact with the consciousness, they appear sentient, they appear luminous, but in reality, they are not. They neither they are luminous nor they are sentient. Then, what is the relationship between iron ball and fire? So, similarly, what is the relationship between the mind and the reflected consciousness? That's what has been explained here. He says, the author says, it is the connection between the mind and the reflected conscious is very intimate and they are inseparable, they say. Just like when I'm standing in front of the mirror, my reflection has been seen in the mirror. The reflected image has been appearing in the mirror. Can you separate the mirror and the reflected image? You cannot separate. I can get separate. I am separate from the mirror, no doubt. But the mirror and the reflected image, they're inseparable. They're so connected, well connected. So similarly, the mind and the reflected consciousness are also inseparable. Now, how this body and mind get sentient, I touched upon. I would like to give some more example and explanation. According to the Vedanta, the mind receives the power, luminosity, consciousness from the sakshi, from the pure consciousness, bare awareness. That's how mind becomes active. Mind starts working, whatever the functions of the mind, but mind becomes active. Why? Because it borrows the consciousness from the mind. Sorry, from the sakshi, from the chaitanya, from the pure consciousness or original consciousness. Then mind becomes active. That's how mind becomes the seer. Number two. Then, after getting borrowed the consciousness from the original consciousness, the mind also transfers its own consciousness to the sense organs of the body. That's how body and the sense organs becomes active and becomes luminous, or becomes the knower, or becomes the seer. When I'm seeing a beautiful rose, how do I see? Because through my eyes. That's what the science say. But the Vedanta says the mind, through the vritti, it goes out through the sense organ called eye. It envelops the object and it brings the image through the sense organs and it is presented to the mind. Mind understands and it processes and understands and decides that, okay, this is a red rose. Just like on the full moon day, the moon is so bright. So the brightness does really belong to the moon? Yes, we are seeing such a bright moon. How can you say no? No, we all know that. The luminosity of the moon is due to the borrowed light from the sun. Where the sun is self-luminous, but whereas moon is not self-luminous, it has borrowed the luminosity or the energy or the power from the sun. And it has borrowed. So similarly, mind has borrowed the consciousness or the power or the energy from the sakshi, from the original consciousness, and it becomes luminous. It becomes knower. It becomes the seer. And moon is transferring its moonlight to the earth, and that's why we are able to see in the presence of the moonlight, we are able to see the things. We are able to know the things. So similarly, mind transfers some part of energy, luminosity to the sense organs and the body. That's why my body and the sense organs are also aware of the things. And that's how sense organs also becomes the seer number one. Okay, now just like the reflected image and the mirror, what is the connection? Now the author is trying to tell what is the connection between the mind and the reflected consciousness. That is nothing but that is intimate and inseparable. That is just like between the red hot iron ball and the fire. How they are intimate and inseparable. So similarly, the connection between the mind and the reflected conscious are intimate and they're inseparable. This, if you study deeply or if you think deeply, by this one can understand very clearly, mind is active or mind is inactive, whatever we say, that is all because of sakshi. That is all because of consciousness. Fine. And why sense organs or why the body has become active? Because of the mind. Because mind has given that power, not the brain, which we should not get confused here, not with the brain. Mind, which Vedanta speaks, the mind is giving the energy to the sense organs and the body. That's why mind is active. So in death, what happens? So many times people question. Many times people question, Swamiji, in death, what happens? The self travels where from? How the self travels? I say self will never travel. Self cannot travel. Why? Self is omnipresent. Self is all pervading. So how it can travel from one place to another? Then what happens to the dead person? Does the self or the consciousness or the Atman does exist in the dead body? I say yes. If the consciousness or the Atman or the self exists in the dead body, then why it is dead? Why it is not conscious? Why? Because the reflecting medium called the subtle body is not there. Mind is also part of the subtle body, which you should understand. If you have if you have heard my Tattvabodha and Aparokshanubhuti classes, you'll be knowing by this time. The mind is also part of the subtle body. When the subtle body lives in the physical body, what happens? Physical body is unaware of the consciousness. That means physical body or the sense organs does not get the consciousness or the energy or the luminosity from the sakshi, original consciousness directly. It gets through the mind. Mind gets the energy from the original consciousness, and the mind sends the energy to the sense organs. Sense organs cannot get energy directly from the sakshi. So in the death, the reflecting medium called the mind is not there. That is why the dead body or the body is not aware, or body is not consciousness or conscious. So this is the very clearly we get the rational explanation about the nature of the death. So when death happens means the subtle body reflecting medium has departed the body, but not the self has departed the body. That you have to understand. Now, after understanding this, the identification of the self with the reflected consciousness, why it is, how it is, all these things are explained in detail in verse number 8. So let me go into that. The nature of the identification of the ego or mind with different entities is been explained in this verse number 8. Here things are becoming a bit more subtle and more probably little complicated, tough it appears. But if you sit yourself and if you think, then you will be able to understand things very clearly. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chichaya deha sakshibhi sahajam karma brantijanyancha trividam kramat. The identification of the ego with the reflection of consciousness, the body, and the witness are of three kinds, namely natural, due to past karma, and due to ignorance, respectively. In the verse number 7, the author tried to explain the relationship between the type of connection between the reflected consciousness and the mind, actually. Now he is trying to explain three type of connections, that is the relationship between the body and the physical body and the mind, the connection or the relationship between the mind and the reflected consciousness, and the mind with the original consciousness, that is sakshi or chaitanya. Now again, before getting into these things, let me rebrush. Seer 1 is sense organs, seer 2 mind, seer 3 is sakshi or chaitanyam or atman or original consciousness. This you have understood. Now, when I'm standing in front of the mirror, if I am considered as a sakshi, the mirror is considered as the mind, reflecting medium. And the image, whatever you see, the image of this physical body is what the image or reflected image. That is what called reflected consciousness. Pratibimba chaitanya or chichaya with respect to particular work. The image of a person, reflected image of a person. So similarly, the reflected image of the consciousness or the reflection of the consciousness. The reflecting medium is called mind, and the reflected consciousness is nothing but the reflection of the consciousness. This you have to understand. Now, the author is trying to explain three types of connections. What is that? One is the connection between the mind and the physical body. That is, they say the connection is because of prarabdha karma, which is the result of our past actions results. And the connection between the mind and the reflected consciousness. So reflected consciousness is RC, which is natural and which is inseparable. We have seen already in the previous verse. And the connection between the mind and the original consciousness. And by this understanding, if you really understand how the Vedantins have gone very deep in analyzing the mind and our connections between the external world and internal world, they have gone so so deep, and like threadbearing or sizzling out, we say, that type of so fine understanding they have done, you'll be able to understand. So virginal conscious is Atman, reflected conscious is the reflection of the consciousness in the mind. So this virginal consciousness or the reflected consciousness, this you have to understand very clearly. Now, and also I told one more, which is very clearly, if the mind and the body is, if it is insentient, how they are active? The mind has got the luminosity or the energy from the consciousness, Sakshi, that's why it is active. And it also supplies the energy or luminosity to the sense organs. That's why it becomes sentient or it becomes active. Otherwise, mind and the body, they are never sentient always. They are insentient naturally they are insentient, but because they get the consciousness, and that's how they become sentient. That's why if you see, the world is always seen. It never becomes the seer. And the sense organs become seer with respect to the world, and with respect to the mind, it becomes seen. So sometimes it is seer and sometimes it is seen, the sense organs. And the sense organs are getting light from where? The sense organs are getting energy from where? Consciousness from where? From the mind, not from the Sakshi, from the mind only it can get. Okay. Now, with respect to sense organs, the mind is the seer. And with respect to the Sakshi, the mind is the seen. Mind is the seen, and the Sakshi or the Chaitanya or the virginal consciousness is the seer. Seer number 3. The seer number 3 is always seer only. It became never seen. But the seer number 2 and the seer number 1, they became sometimes seer and sometimes they are seen. So this you have to understand. And one more important point we should remember, the body or the sense organs can never get the energy directly from the self itself, from the Chaitanya. They get the energy through the mind, through the subtle body, through the mind only, not directly. This also we should understand. In these 3 types of seers, so what did you understand? The seer number 3 is absolute seer and it is never seen. And the seer number 2 and the seer number 1, they are relative seers and they're relatively seen also. So this is also we have to understand. So again, this example again I'm giving you. When I stand in front of mirror, I as a Sakshi, the mind is what? The mirror, and my reflection is what? Nothing but the reflected consciousness. So this you have to keep it in your mind. Now I am happy, I am unhappy, I am sorrow, I am joyful, I am dull, I am knowledgeable person, I am inactive, I am active, I can do anything and everything, I cannot do much. So these type of all dualities, whatever we see, we experience, we recognize, we make comments on ourselves or on others, it all belongs to whom? It all belongs to me, or it all belongs to a person. This is what the answer given by naturally by any common person. But the person who has studied Vedanta, the person who has studied Sankhya, he will say all these things belongs to mind, not me. Whatever the dualities we are all speaking, I am happy, I am sorrowful, I am good, I am bad, I am right and I am wrong, I am dull and I am intelligent. All these dualities, all these attributes belongs to my mind, not for me, not to the real I, not to the original consciousness. To make this clarity, to bring this clear understanding, we have to study Advaita Vedanta, we have to study Drik, Drishya, Viveka, or Aparokshanubhuti, or Upanishads, or Bhagavad Gita. Now, and also one thing I told you very clearly, you should remember, death is what? Death is, in the death, what happens? The reflected consciousness or the mind, basically, the mind departs the physical body. That's why physical body is considered as dead. So if you ask, in that physical body or in the dead physical body, the self exists. The self is residing there. If you ask me, we the Vedantins say Yes. The self or the consciousness or the Atman does exist in this dead body, if you ask me, or if you ask any Vedantin, we say yes. Why? Because it is there. It is omnipresent. It is all pervasive. Then why the body is not active? Then why body started getting rotten? And why body is not aware of it? Why? Because there is no reflecting medium. Now, just for an example, I was standing in front of the mirror and I was making all makeup. Because of something, the mirror went down. Now the mirror just fell and it broke out. Though I am there, because the reflecting medium called the mirror is not there, I am not able to see my image. Though I am there, I am not able to see my image. Similarly, though the physical body is not there, physical body it doesn't appears to be sentient. Physical body doesn't appears to be living. Why? Because the reflecting medium called subtle body or the mind is not there. So mind is also part of subtle body. Since the reflecting medium called subtle body is not there, that's why it is uh, not feeling and there is no life. That's why in Hindi they say, Pran chala gaya, Atma chala gaya, they will never say. Atman left the body, they will never say. Even in a day-to-day life, a village person who has not studied Vedanta, he will say, Pran chala gaya. Prana left the body. Prana again is a part of the subtle body. Mind is also part of the subtle body. Senses are also part of the subtle body. So only subtle body, the reflecting medium, departs the physical body. This idea has been beautifully presented by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Vasansi jirnani yata vihaya navani grunhati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnan anyani sanyati navani dehi. Just like when I'm using a cloth, it becomes old, then I throw it off and I wear a new cloth. Similarly, the embodied self or the subtle body, when it is become old, it leaves the old body, physical body, and it again takes the new body, new physical body. So that's why the intelligent people, the wise people never grieve for the death. Someone has died. Who has died? Only the subtle body has left the physical body, that's all. Because if it comes to me, I, which is a original consciousness, which is a self, which is Atman, I am neither birthless nor the deathless. I am neither birthless nor the deathless. I mean, I am Aja. I am not the birthless. I don't have birth, I don't have death. Because I am not an object, I am the subject. What a beautiful concept. The moment when we understand that, we can face the life. We can face the adverse circumstances. All these things belongs to body-mind complex, not for me. And also beautifully, there is a Mundaka Upanishad. Tameva bhantam manubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. Everything shines after the self alone, which is the light of all lights. By its light, all things shines. Means here, everything is known through the help of the light, self. So self, the mind gets drawn some energy from the self, and mind becomes active. Mind starts become active and it starts doing its work, which is a part of subtle body, including subtle body starts working. And also subtle body transfers some part of energy to the physical body. That's how our sense organs and physical body, everything becomes active. That you have to understand. So the between the mind and the reflected consciousness is intimate and inseparable, we have know. Now, for our sake of understanding, the author splits the mind into two parts. One is what? The mind substantial part, substance part or substantial part, manodravyam it is called. The other is called thought part, vruttiyamsha. Oh, Swamiji, today class is becoming very tough or very technical. Sometimes you may feel it, but it may take some time. But if you understand, definitely you will enjoy. I will give an example, then you'll be probably easy. For example, there is a beautiful lake. What a beautiful lake. So the lake has got water part. The water has made the lake actually. So that is what here, substantial part of the mind. So Manas also has got some substantial part, which is nothing but matter. Because for us, mind is also one sense organ, which is made up of matter, sattva pradhana, or sattva elements Sattvic portion of the five elements has been from that mind has been created. So just like lake, in the lake, water is the material portion, substantial portion of the lake. So similarly, in the manas, the sattvic portion of the five elements are present. They are the substantial part, are manodravya, manodravyam. Then in the lakes, there's a beautiful waves, small, small ripples, small, small ripples. So that is called vrutyamsha or thought part. So in the mind, so many thoughts are coming and so many thoughts are going. Like someone of you are attending my lecture. Oh, Swami, today you are all going, what are you telling? Everything is going in my head. Saying that, so your mind started thinking, okay, it is a evening tea time. I would like to probably go and have an Nescafe tea or Nescafe coffee or some green Lipton tea. So, though one side of your mind is hearing Tattvaboda, Drishya Viveka class, then the Lipton tea or Nescafe coffee, Vritti may be going on. So this is what thought part I say. So this is for sake of understanding only. The author is making a fine split between manodravya, substantial part, and the vrutyamsha, that is thought part. So thoughts comes and thoughts goes, but the mind, the manodravya portion of the mind is always there constantly. So similarly, when the mind is there, through the mind, with the help of sense organs, the thoughts go out and it covers the sense object and it brings the image through the sense organs to the mind, and mind process it and mind understands. This is a red flower. This is a yellow flower. This is hot coffee. This is a hot tea. Or this is a thorn. So we get so much knowledge of the world and its objects. How it happens? Perception, according to the Vedanta, if you ask, the reflected consciousness, it goes through the sense organs and it takes the form of the sense objects, and the reflected conscious throw the light on it, and that image has been brought through the sense organs to the mind, and mind processes it and mind understands what it is, and it produces in front of the sakshi or the mind or the sense organs or the knowledge or whatever. That's how the knowledge of the perception happens according to the Advaita Vedanta. Now, let us try to understand what is the relationship between the mind and the body. The author tells that how the mind and body are connected, it is connected because of the prarabdha karma. I have done a lot of actions. Actions produces its results. Now, some of the actions results I experience in this life itself, and some are stored in my life account. So there is so much storage. So in my next life, I draw some portion of the karma phala and I take a new birth. So till the exhaustion of that karma phala, then I have to leave. So that is called prarabdha karma. Say for an example, I am working and I'm getting say 10,000 euros per month. And day-to-day expenses like 1,000, 2,000 euros a monthly I'm spending it. And 8,000 euros every month, more or less, I'm go on depositing in my bank account. Now I went to a trip, Europe trip. So I wanted a money. 4 or 5,000 euros I withdraw and I went for a trip. So still 4 or 5,000 euros to spend, I can do the Europe trip. Afterwards, I cannot. So similarly, this is what prarabdha karma has been drawn from the my karma bank account for the particular life till its exhaustion. Once it is exhausted, then I die. Or the subtle body departs from the physical body, from the grass body. The subtle body departs from the physical body or the grass body. So the relationship between mind and body, the cause is what? According to the author, it is prarabdha karma. By this, we can understand very clearly the relationship between the mind and the body is not permanent, it is not eternal, it is temporary. Why? Because once the prarabdha karma is over, then the mind, which is a part of the subtle body, it departs the present body and it again takes the new body. That means the relationship between the mind and the body is temporary. It is not permanent. It is not eternal. That's the one thing, and it is separable. So this we have to understand. Now the second type of relationship author is trying to tell the relationship between the mind and the reflected consciousness. It is inseparable and it is permanent. Just like till mirror is there, the reflected image is there always. Of course, if there is no, I mean, when there is no person at all, when there is no object, there is no image, no doubt. But that doesn't happen at all. Why? Because the subtle body is a, because the mind is a part of subtle body. Subtle body exists in some physical body. Subtle body cannot exist by itself without the physical body in our day-to-day thing in the mundane world. Now, there is an argument. There are theories that in a higher worlds, there is no physical body, only subtle bodies are there. That's how the celestial beings they enjoy or whatever they say. But at least in this mundane earth or in this solar system or in this our day-to-day experience or in the earth, there cannot subtle body cannot exist without the physical body, which we don't see. That's why they say that when there is a mind, there is a, I mean, reflected consciousness. Means when there is a mirror, there is an object also. That's why there is a reflection of the image always continuous. That is, we have to understand. And what is the difference between the reflected image and the reflecting medium? If you say that is permanent and it cannot be separated, they're inseparable. That's what the author is trying to tell. And this is the cause for all our transactions, day to day things. From morning rising to the sleep, including our experience of sleep, if you see, everything is because of this. The relationship between the mind and the reflected consciousness. This is inseparable, eternal. This cannot be removed at all. This cannot be destroyed at all. Now, what is the relationship between the mind and the original consciousness? They say it is non eternal. It is beginningless because we don't know when it started, but it can be ended. The relationship between the mirror, the relationship between the mirror and the person. And the person is what? Because I want to look my image, that's why I'm standing. If I don't want to look, then I can go away. But when I'm looking in the mirror, I am feeling because there was some problem in the mirror. I was looking pale, I was looking stout, I was looking thin, I was looking beautiful, I was looking ugly, whatever. Because there was a defect in the mirror, there was also defect in the image, but I felt there is a defect in me and I started reacting it. But there was no defect actually in me, but only there was a defect in a medium. That's why there was a defect in the image also. So similarly, I am Sakshi. I am pure awareness. I am bare awareness. I am consciousness. I am original consciousness. I don't have any relationship between me and the mind actually. But because of ignorance, I think that I have got connected with the mind and I am suffering and I am taking birth time and again. I means actually, again, this embodied self, not the original self or the original consciousness. The moment, because of the knowledge, when the ignorance has been removed, then the so called established relationship, mind and the original consciousness is removed, then that is what realization, that is what moksha, mukti, nirvana, kaivalya. There was a defect in the mirror, so there was also reflected image was also distorted, but I started feeling that there is a problem in me and I was suffering. The moment someone came and said, Arey, the problem is not on your face, the problem was because of the mirror. Oh, is it? Okay. Then the moment I understand, I'm happy. Was I not happy? Was not everything were right? Everything was right, but because of ignorance, I was suffering, I was struggling or whatnot. And I was trying to do so many things, but nothing. The problem never in me, the problem was only in the reflecting medium that is called mind. So I am happy, I am unhappy, I am saint, I am sinner, I am good, I am bad, I am joyful and I am sorrow, I am morose. All these things belong to the mind, not to me. But unfortunately, I am superimposing all these dualities on me and I am suffering. I am suffering means your embodied self suffering. So the moment when I understand that I don't have any connection with the mind, I and mind are separate, I am neither the physical body, nor the subtle body, nor the causal body. I am beyond all these three things. The moment I understand, then there will be no suffering. That is what realization. In the state of realization, what happens? The unnatural connection existed for time being between the mind and the uh, original consciousness has been removed, then the self starts, yeah, I mean, experiencing the everlasting bliss always without any barrier like clouds, which is ignorance. So why, probably now you will understand why this so much circus or why this intellectual gymnasium for 30 minutes we did, because to understand this. They wanted to show, the author wanted to show where is the root cause of problem, where is the root cause for my suffering, to make me understand, to make every aspirant understand. So author is trying to understand all these things. Now, author doesn't stop here. When you study this loka deeply, you will get three more questions based on these three type of relationships: mind and physical body, mind and reflected conscious, mind and virginal conscious. The question will be raised again, three more questions with every time, with every point. What type of intimacy is present between these things, and what is the type of relationship, and how strong is the bonding? This also question comes. Now let us try to see body and mind relationship. Body and mind relationship is intimate, no doubt. It is importance for the survival, but it is temporary. It is temporary. It is never permanent. The association of mind, the association of the mind with the body creates birth. The disassociation of the mind with the body causes the death. That's what shloka I have told, Vasansi Jirnaniyata Vihaya. So that is natural, but it is a time bound and it is not permanent. That we have understood. And it is important because for the survival of the body. Now, what is the relationship, the type of relationship between the mind and the reflected consciousness? The author tries to explain that it is natural, it is inseparable, and it is permanent. Why? The connection between the reflecting medium and the reflected object is always constant. One cannot coexist without other, and both of them cannot be physically separated. As long as the reflecting medium exists, the reflected image also exists. So as long as mind exists, the duality exists. As long as the mind exists, the world of opposite exists, for me at least. As long as the mind exists, the dual world for me, the experience of the dual world exists. So the moksha means what? Manonasha. Manonasha means it is not the destruction of the mind literally, it is what? The separating of the self between self from the mind. That's what. Separating of the original consciousness from the self. That's what. So why, when the mind is there, the duality exists? Because that is the nature of the mind. So what is non-dual? Advaita, non-dual means what? Separating the self from the mind. So probably now you are able to understand how important these things. So there is no time when the mind alone is present without reflection of consciousness or without the reflected consciousness. When you are hearing all these things, one doubt should come to of you. If so, Samji, but mind is so volatile. Mind is so strength. I mean, mind is so strong, and we feel at every point of time to try to control the mind how turbulent it is, how it is energy powerful. And you say that it has got borrowed consciousness, borrowed energy from the self. It is insentient. How it is to understand? If you ask me, yes. Just like moon looks so beautiful on the full moon day. But we all know that moon is not self-luminous, but the sun is self-luminous. Moon has got borrowed luminous or borrowed light from the sun. So similarly, the mind or the reflected consciousness, both of them have borrowed the consciousness or the luminosity or the energy from the self. That is seen very clearly during our deep sleep. In deep sleep, mind is not there, mind is there, but it is inactive. Because mind is inactive, reflected consciousness is in potential form, there is no world at all for us. In my deep sleep, whether the world was there, whether the world was there or not there, I don't know, but at least I didn't perceive, I didn't experience. In our waking state, we experience. In dream state, we experience. But in the deep sleep state, we don't experience. Though our physical body was there, I mean, subtle body is there, causal body is there, mind is there, self is there, everything was there, but we don't experience the world. Why? Because the mind was inactive, reflected conscious was in dormant, or was in potential form. That's why we didn't experience this world. And that's how the yogins or the Sankhya yogins or Patanjali yoga say that mind, you make it no mind. That means what? You stop all the thought currents, then the mind stops, loses its nature. Then whether the mind exists or not, it doesn't make difference. That's what they try to tell from the yoga and Sankhya point of view, from the Vedanta point of view. The moment you understand yourself, then you will rise yourself, or you will disconnect between the connection between the mind and the sakshi. Then automatically, whether the mind is there or not, it doesn't bring any problem for you. It doesn't can make any effect in you. So now the third one is the connection between the mind and the original consciousness. So this is what important for the author. Actually, there is no relationship between the mind and the sakshi. Just like what is the relationship between me and the mirror? There is nothing actually. Because I thought, let me look, how do I look? So I thought and I went and I stood, and that's where I was carried out. But otherwise, I don't have any relationship with me and with the mirror. So similarly, there is no relationship between the reflecting medium called mind and the original consciousness, that is Sakshi or Chaitanya. But because I thought, let me see my reflection, and I saw there was some distortion of the image. As a result, I started worrying. Somehow, the consciousness has feeling that it has got entangled with the mind, and the self has taken, it appears that self has taken all the qualities of the mind, and the self is feeling that it is suffering. The moment the sakshi is disassociated from the mind, then what happens? Then the sakshi, Shuddha Chaitanya, or pure awareness, consciousness, ever blissful in nature, it is, it is re-established, or it becomes aware of it. To understand this, because of ignorance we are suffering, the knowledge alone can remove the ignorance. That's why I am unfortunately, by mistake, I'm getting entangled. I mixed myself with the mind. So get out from that, separate it. Then that is what nirvana or moksha or mukti. To make us understand, to separate ourselves, not physically, but only intellectually from the thought process, the Drishya Viveka author, Adi Shankaracharya Vidyaranya, is trying to tell that you are not the mind. If you are not the mind, then all the properties of the mind is also not on you. So it is only superimposed. So try to remove that misunderstanding by understanding right thing, by proper understanding. Then all your suffering ends. Then your cycle of birth and death ends. Then your eternal happiness is re-established. But that means what? Again, very important, when I was studying this or when I was thinking about it, what I understood is, means we are limited, we are conditioned. How we are limited? Our mind is conditioned. We all know that. Why? Because, myself, I got attached with the mind. How to decondition? I am limitless. I am conditionless. My Gurudev used to tell always, what is self? Self is science of human infinite possibilities, science of infinite possibilities. But we are not feeling that. We think that we have got finite possibilities. We are conditioned. Why? Because I am trying to understand myself through the mind. How mind is so beautiful, mind is so important, mind is so energetic, it can create wonders, no doubt. But at the same time, mind has got set of frame, mind is conditioning us. That's why we think that we are conditioned and have got conditions. But I am actually limitationless. I am conditionless. I am unlimited. Because my tadatmya, because of my association with the mind, is making me to condition. If you want to decondition, if you want to experience your limitless universal nature, then what you should do it? You have to disassociate yourself mentally or intellectually from the mind. Means to understand that I am the self, I am not the mind, I am not the sense object, nor this world or whatever. The moment I understand, I will be, blissful in nature, or the blissful nature has been restored, or whatever the barrier was there, that has been removed. So in the next sloka how, because of the identification of ahankara, how what happens and how it can be ended. That has been beautifully explained in the verse number 9. Let us try to understand in the next class. So probably I also request the devotees who are attending the classes to make some homework and notes. Then you'll be able to understand all this subtle, thoughtful process. The moment you understand, you'll be able to enjoy and you'll be able to appreciate. And because of that, you'll be able to stay happily at a longer time. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.